हाय आद्य दीदी, हाउ आर यू?
आई एम गुड। आप कैसे हो?
मैं भी ठीक हूँ। तो आपको कोई डाउट्स हैं लाइक इन द प्रीवियस चैप्टर्स जब हमने लाइक आइट्रेटर्स इनहेरिटेंस एंड क्लासेस करा था?
हाँ, नहीं, अभी तो डाउट्स नहीं है। मैंने
अच्छा।
भी बहुत अच्छे से प्रैक्टिस नहीं करा है क्योंकि मेरे को टाइम नहीं मिल रहा था, बट हाँ, मतलब जितना आपने समझाया था उतना आ गया।
ठीक है, ठीक है। सो लाइक टुडे लाइक हम पॉलीमॉर्फिज्म से कंटिन्यू करेंगे एंड
हाँ।
फिर लाइक करेंगे आगे. सो basically polymorphism is like when we are able to use one method on many objects. For example, like this is a string x and we are able to use length on a string, the length function, and we have tuple and we are able to use the length function on that tuple, and we have dictionary and we are able to use the length function on that dictionary. So basically this is polymorphism, that when we are able to use one function on many objects.
या
So like in classes, when we create our own classes to achieve polymorphism, we can create the same function in all the classes. So for example, we have class car, in that we have this move function, in boat we have this move function, and in plane we have this move function. Now like each each class has the move function, so every object that we create from all these classes, all of them will have that move function. So for example, we can say for x in car 1, boat 1, plane 1. So these are objects of all the classes. So for x in car
या
1, boat 1, plane 1, so first in x we'll get car 1, then in x we'll get boat 1, and then in x we'll get plane 1. And we are calling the move function of all of these objects. So first car's move function will be called, so we'll get drive, then we'll get sail, and then we'll get fly. So we are using the
या
same move
अंडरस्टूड।
function on all of these objects, and this is because of polymorphism. Now,
ओके।
now we have inheritance class polymorphism. So for example, we have vehicle, and in the vehicle class we have the move function. Now this this vehicle is our parent class. Now what we are doing, we are inheriting many, like inheriting from this vehicle class in many classes, like car is inheriting from vehicle, boat is inheriting from vehicle, and plane is inheriting from vehicle. And in car, what we are doing, we are saying pass. So pass meaning that it will basically have all the properties and methods of vehicle only, and it won't
या
have its own properties and methods. In boat, what we are doing, we are changing the move function. So the move function in vehicle prints move, but what we are doing are in the boat class, the move function that we are creating, that will print sail. So we are overriding the move function and we are changing it, and we are changing its behavior, and it's printing something else now. Similarly in plane, instead of showing move when we are calling like the move function, we are showing fly when the move function will be called. So in car we passed because like we don't have it doesn't have its own properties and methods, and the move function will remain the same, that will print move. In boat, the move function will print sail, and in plane it will print fly. So when we loop and we check brand model and call the move function of each of the objects, then we'll get different values because we are putting different values for brand and model. But when calling the move function, for car 1 we'll get move, for boat 1 we'll get sail, and for plane 1 we'll get fly. So we are getting
ओके।
fly, sail, and move.
या अंडरस्टूड।
Okay. So the child class inherits the properties and methods from the parent class, and like this was polymorphism, where we could use one method on many objects of different classes. Now we are on
या
scope. So when we did variables, then Then like we learned a bit about scope, so we had local scope and the global scope. So global
Global scope, yeah.
variables are like we can access those in the whole program, but local scope,
Program.
what we have is that the
Only inside the function
yeah,
block.
and then the variable is removed from the memory once the function stops executing. So over here this is an
Yeah.
example of local scope. So like we have x equals to 300, so x is like local to my function and we cannot access it outside of this function. Now
Okay.
when we create a function inside of a function, then it is also in local scope. So like that function is local to my func. So now my inner func is local to my func. So this x variable that we have over here, that is accessible to my inner function also, because as you can see this is local, this is a local variable, but my inner func is also local. So for this my inner func, it can access from my func and it can access from here. So for my inner func there are two scopes, or we can say three scopes. It is the local scope that is over here, inside over here. Then it is, we can say, semi global scope. So like it can access all the variables inside my func. So the variables that we have created my in my function, that also my inner func can access, and obviously it can also access the global variables.
Yeah.
So
Understood.
there are kind of three scopes for my inner func in this like piece of code. Now we have the
Yeah.
global scope. As we saw that the global variables are accessible in the whole program. So like we have this x variable, this will be accessible in the whole program. We are accessing it inside of my func. So and we are basically printing x. So when we call my func, that will basically show 300 on the screen, and when we print x over here, that also will show 300.
Okay.
And then we have like naming variables. So basically like if we have the same variable in the global scope and the local scope, then it will by default take the local scope one inside the function. So when we call my func, we'll get 200, and when we print x outside of the function, we'll get 300. So we'll get 200 300 on the screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And next we have the global keyword. If we want to use the global variable instead of creating a local variable inside of the function, then we can use the global keyword like we saw in the variables chapter also. So for example,
Yeah.
over here what we are doing, we are saying x equals to 300, and in my function we are saying global x. So now we are working with the global variable x, and when we say x equals to 200, then a local variable is not created, the global variable's value is only changed. So when we call my function, the value of x will change to 200. So when we call my func, we'll get like x value will be changed to 200, and when we print x, we'll get 200 on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there is the non-local keyword. So this is basically new. So it is like this is used to work with nested functions. So like we saw over here in this example, this is a nested function. When we have a function inside of a function, it is a nested function.
Yeah.
Similarly, the non-local keyword is used to work with nested functions. So it basically makes the variable belong to the outer function. So when we say non-local x in my function 2, then what it will do is basically this will start working with the x variable that is over here inside of my func 1. So like we have my func 1, we are saying x equals to Jane, and then we have my func 2 and we are saying non-local x. So what this will do, when we say x equals to hello, this won't create a local variable for my function 2. What this will do, it will change the value of this x variable, and when we call my function 2, it will change the value of this x variable and we are returning x. So when we are returning x, when we call my function 1, then we will get hello. So
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
global variable was to work with the global scope. The non-local variable is basically to work with the, as I said, the semi-global scope, kind of like this scope over here. So, like, next we are on modules. So like when we work with the math module, random module, we say import math, import random. So what
Yeah.
happens, these all are modules. Now we can also create our own module. What we have to do,
Yeah.
we have to create a py file. We can name it anything, like my module, and we are saying my module.py, and we are saving it. In that we have this greeting function, and then we can import this module, like import my module. So we'll just use the file name to import it. So import my module will basically import the module, and we can say my module dot greeting to use this greeting function that we created in it, and we are passing it the value that it requires. So it requires name, so we are saying Jonathan, so it will show hello Jonathan.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. So
So what will happen like inside the file that we have created?
like my module.py.
Yeah.
So in this file, like what we nothing will happen. We just have to create the variables. So like if this is my module.py, then what we'll do, we'll create variables. For example, x equals to 2, y equals to 3, and we'll create functions like define hello, and like and we can say define function 2. So now when we will like import this module in, like when we'll import this my module in some other file, let's say work.py we have, and we are saying import my module. So now we can get the value of x using my module dot x. We can get the value of y using my module dot y. We can get the value of like we can call hello or access hello using my module dot hello, and so on.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we saw that we could also, instead of functions, we can also have variables inside of a module. So for example, this is a variable whose value is a dictionary. So this is in our my module.py. So when we import my module, we can use my module.person1 and access its age keys value.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can, like my module is very big, so we can use the as keyword and say like as mx. So what we are saying, we are
Yeah.
changing the name of my module and saying as mx. So to access all the functions and variables inside of it, we'll use mx dot instead of my module dot.
My module dot. Yeah. Understood.
Okay. So next we are on built-in modules. So as we saw above, we are creating our own modules, but now we have built-in modules like platform, and it will have its own variables and functions, right? So we can say import platform, and we are saying x equals to platform dot system. So this will tell on like which system the code is like basically executing. So right now this is showing Linux. I'm using a Mac, but this is showing Linux because like this code is executing on their servers. So their servers must
Yeah.
be on a Linux computer. So that's why it's showing Linux.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. And then we have the dir function. So this directory function we can use on all modules. So what this directory function will do, it will show the all the function names and the variable names that are there in that module that we can use. So like when we use dir on platform, we have so many variables and functions in this, in this module. So this dir function will basically show all the variables and functions that we have access to in the module.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so then we also have from. So like instead of importing the whole module, if we want some specific variable or some specific method of that module, so what we can say from my module import person 1. So what this will do, this will directly just import person 1 into our code. Next, then if we want to access this person 1's value, we don't have to say my module dot person 1. We can directly say person 1, and we can directly access person 1 because it's like it has come inside of our code. So like it's like we have this like dictionary inside of a code over here.
Yeah, okay.
So we don't say my module dot person one, we say person one directly. Next, day like dates we can like skip because it's like nothing much. There's nothing much in it.
Yeah,
And we have this math module. So basically it's basically inbuilt. So it math basically uh, it provides us with inbuilt functions like min, max. So yeah, so basically min, what it does, we pass it values and it will show give us the minimum value. Max, what it does, we pass it values and it will give the maximum value to us, and then we can print those values. So,
yeah, okay, okay.
so to work with these functions, we don't have to import anything. We already have them inside of our like we have direct access to them and they are built in Python. So we don't need to import anything. We directly can access min, max. Then we have the abs function, which will give us the absolute value. So basically, it will give us the positive value always. So minus 7.25 will give us 7.25, and 7.25 will give us 7.25.
Yeah, okay.
And then we also have the power function, that is 2 raised to the power.
Uh,
Yeah, so
yeah,
we have like 4 raised to the power 3, so that is 4 into 4 into 4, and this is what will happen. So first argument will be the base, and second argument will be the power.
excellent. Yeah,
Yeah. Next, we have the math module for like complex tasks, so or complex mathematical methods if we want to use. For example, square root, that is sqrt. So if we want the square root, we can use the sqrt function, and we can say math.sqrt, and we are passing it 64. So its square root is 8, and that we are saving in x, and when we print x, we'll get 8.
okay. Yeah,
Then we have the seal function. So what is a seal and floor function basically? So when we say mat.seal, it will round the value up, and when we have
up, yeah,
mat.floor, it will round the value down.
down,
So
yeah,
seal will make this value 2, and floor will make this value 1.
one, yeah,
And mat.pi will give us the value of pi.
value of pi,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then there are many functions and properties inside of the math module, and like when we require them, then basically we can uh, use those functions and properties.
okay,
Yeah, so now we are on try except. So basically try except block is like code block is when we want to like try something and we are unsure if,
yeah, and we don't want the error to come.
yeah, or we are like we also use it mostly when we are unsure if our code will work or not, and we want to like stop the code from breaking. So like the
Okay,
it like tries the try block lets you test a block of code for errors. Except block will execute when there is some error inside the try block, and
Yeah.
the else block will execute when there is no error, and the finally block is when the whole try except has like ended. So we are going to see this
Yeah.
one by one. So in try we are going to try something, and in except if an error occurs over here, then it will go in an except block. So for example, if I say
Yeah.
print over here, that's not a function, so it will show an exception occurred.
Yeah.
And also x was not
It's
defined.
just like
What?
it, basically like if we would have not put the except block, then like that red text of error would have come. So just to avoid that, we put the except block so that like it accepts the error.
Yeah, yeah. And like when we are working with like APIs and all, like when we are pulling in data, then also we use the try except, and like if we don't get the data, then we can say that sorry, data was not found, and all of those, instead of like showing an error and breaking the code.
Error. Yeah. Understood.
So x was not defined in this code, that's why an error came and it went in the except block.
Yeah.
So then there can be like many exceptions. So there are many types of errors. There is name error, there is reference error, there is like
Value error.
yeah, so there are many types of
Type
errors.
error.
Yeah, type error also. So like there are many types of errors, so we can have except blocks for different types of errors. So for example, name,
Okay.
we can have an except block for name error. So if a name error comes, then we can do something. Then if any other error comes instead of name error, then we can do something else.
Okay.
So over here there was a name error because x was not defined. So it went in this except block and showed that variable x is not defined.
Yeah.
Then there is else. So if the except block was not executed and the try block worked properly, then only it will go in the else block. So in this case, a try block executed properly, and then it went in the else block, where and it did not go in the except block.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then
Basically, if there is no error, then it will go into the else block.
yeah, if it does not go in except, then it will go in else.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there is finally, and if there is an error, if there is not an error, it will always go in the finally block. So
Okay. So what happens when finally, like basically whatever we put in finally, that will get printed or
yeah, after
executed.
the try except is finished.
Okay.
Yeah, so first try except and all is finished, then it will go in the finally block and like do whatever is there inside of that finally block.
And what happens if there is an error in the finally block?
If there is an error in the finally block, then we are not catering to that, so this will show an error on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the
Okay.
finally,
So basically, the errors will only be accepted till the accept block. After that, it will not be accepted.
yeah, for that we'll have to
Okay.
like create a new try except block.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. So next we are like over here. This is it showing some use cases of try except. So it is like we have a file, like we are trying to open a file that is not writable, and we are trying to write something into it. So we are saying f equals to open demo file dot text. So we are not saying that to open it in write mode, we are directly opening it in read mode. So in read mode we are not able to like we don't have access to change it. So now we have opened it in read mode, but we are trying to write lorem ipsum into it. So now it's opened in read mode, but we are trying to write to it, so that does not work. So we tried to write, but that did not work, that threw an error. So it went in the except block and it showed that something went wrong when writing to the file. And then finally, after this try except is done, it will close the file. It will
Yeah.
close the file, because once we have opened it, we are also required to close it in the program. So it will close the file. And and if there was like an error in opening the file, then it would have gone in this except block. So we have
Okay.
given a whole try except over here. If there is an error opening the file, then it will go in this except block, and if there is an error in writing in the file, then it will go in this except block.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope everything is clear till now.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. So next we can also like raise an exception ourselves. We saw earlier also, using the raise keyword, we are trying to like give an error and crash our program. We are doing that ourselves. So we are saying like x equals to -1, and we are checking if it is less than 0, then raise an exception. So basically this raises an exception when x is less than 0, as we can see over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the raise keyword is used to do that. And why like we have x equals to hello, and we are saying that if it is not of type integer, so we are checking if hello, like the value of x is not of type integer, then it will raise a type error and show only only integers are allowed.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah, so basically the raise keyword, we are raising our own exception.
Error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next we can also take user input using the input method. So the input
Input method. Yeah.
so in the input method, we give some string to give context to the user, that what input we are trying to take in. And then basically what we are doing, we are saying print whatever input is coming, we are saving that in username, and then we are printing username is username. So
Yeah.
it's
Whatever the user has inputted.
yeah. So if we say like xyz and we press enter, then it will show username is xyz.
Yeah.
And in Python 2.7, instead of the input method, we use the raw input method to do the same thing.
Okay. But now we use the input. This was before,
Yeah,
right?
this was in Python 2.7. Now in 3.6 that has come, and the latest versions, we use the input method.
Input method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically till we don't give the input, the program will not go further.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, so now we are on the formatting. So basically in string formatting, we saw that earlier also, we use the f keyword to format strings. So like right now we are not doing any formatting, we are just adding the f keyword, but we add placeholders like brackets to add some variable values. So we use these are called f strings, and this is used to like put values or do some operations inside of a string. Like over here we have price equals to 59, and we are saying f, and the prices, and we are saying we are adding curly braces and putting price. So it will like bring the value of the price variable inside of this string, and this will basically, the text will have the price is $59.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So basically we also saw that there is a modifier. So over here we are saying that we want it till 2 decimal points. So we are saying 0.2f. So we are saying till 2 decimal points we want the value. So like we have
Yeah.
59.00. If we had some 59.5678, then also it will bring till 2 decimal points,
Okay.
and it's showing 59.57, so it's rounding off the value to 2 decimal points.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. And basically instead of a variable we can directly add a number also. For example, 95. So 95 till 2 decimals it will bring, and so it will show the price is $95.00.
Yeah,
So basically we can also perform operations in it. So we like 20 into $59. So we are performing an operation, so it will show 1180. And
yeah, okay.
then we are like over here we are performing another operation. So we are saying price plus price into tax dollars. So it's showing $73.75.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then we can also have an if else. So as we saw single line if else statement, so we can use the single line if else statement inside of this. So like price is 49 and we're saying if price is greater than 50, then put the value expensive, else put the value cheap. So it's 49, so it's less
Yeah,
than 50, it's less than 50, so it will go in the else, and it will show cheap. So it is very cheap, it will show.
cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we can also execute functions also. So like we are saying fruit dot upper, so this will like convert the string into uppercase and then put the value. So it will show I love apples and in uppercase because we are using the upper method.
yeah, okay.
And like we can have our own function also inside. So this is like my converter, and basically whatever x value is coming we are doing into 0.3048, and we are basically calling my converter and passing it 30,000. So it is like calling this function, and whatever is the value that is being returned, that it is putting in this placeholder.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then there are more modifiers. So like we use the dot 2f for two decimal places. Next there is this comma modifier. So what this does is it adds commas in the suitable places inside of like numbers. So like when we have prices we say 59,000, so there's a comma after 59. So it's adding a comma in the suitable place.
okay.
So this is the comma modifier. So it's adding the comma itself.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there are many modifiers like comma. There is like there are so many modifiers. There's this whole list of modifiers. So like it's endless basically. We have many modifiers. So after the modifiers we also have the format method. So instead of using the f strings we can use the format method also. So like we can say text dot format and we can say like price. So we are basically just leaving placeholders inside of a string where we want to put some values, and then we are later using the format method and like passing the variables to like place in those placeholders. So like the price is price, it will show $49. So
Okay.
we are leaving it with placeholders, and in format we are passing like variables whose values we want to put in the respective placeholders.
Okay.
And then what we can do, we when working with format we can basically for before when working with f strings we said price over here, but now when working with format we can just have like this colon dot 2f for adding two decimal places. So these modifiers we'll use in the same way, just we don't have to write the variable names over here. We write the variable, we give the variables when calling the format method.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there are multiple values also. We can put multiple values and multiple placeholders. So like over here we have three placeholders and we are putting multiple values in these placeholders. and these will stay in order. So quantity will go in the first placeholder, item number will go in the second one, and price will go in the third one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there is index numbers also. So what happens is, basically 0 will say that the 0th item that we pass over here, that should go over here in the first placeholder. The one will is saying that the first item that we pass over here should go in the first, like this placeholder, and the second item, that is the third item, so the second index item, the third item should go in this placeholder. So we can add these index numbers inside of our placeholders also, to like make sure that the correct value is being put inside of those placeholders.
Yeah. Okay.
And if we want to refer to the same value more than once, we can use the index number. For example, his name is 1, so that is John, and then John is 36 years old. So we are using the value John two times by saying 1 and 1 over here.
Yeah.
And then we can also have named indexes. So for example, we are passing card name as like card name Ford and model Mustang. So basically when we say card name over here, model over here, then it will bring the value of card name, that is Ford over here, and
Ford and Mustang are the model.
yeah. So if we change the order, for example, we can say model equals to Mustang, and like car name equals to Ford, then the same thing, we'll get the same thing, because order doesn't matter because these are named.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah. So file system, like we can do later. Now we have completed like the basics of Python. That's like
Okay.
in this class we have completed the basics of Python, and later we can continue with the file system also.
So I've done files once, like in 12th grade. I've done text files, binary, and CSV files.
Oh, so it will be like easy for you to like grasp when we do files later, because
Okay.
like when you'll be free, we can like continue with file system only, and then we can move on to the advanced stuff like NumPy, or we can move on with C++.
Okay. So basically, just one thing. The Python that we have learned till now, that is like that is something that we use in like daily usage of Python.
Yeah.
Other than that, like what you're saying, NumPy and all, that is like where do we use that?
So we use that when working with AI and data and all. So like when we have a lot of data, then we use NumPy, and then there's also a library known as Matplotlib, and it is used to show like graphs. So I'll just show you once. So like we have Matplotlib over here, so it's used to draw graphs. So if we have data, we can draw graphs. So it's for graphical representation of our data, Matplotlib.
Okay.
And then
Understood.
pandas is also for data, and then we have Django as a framework. So Django is a framework, and basically this framework allows us to create web apps. So it's very detailed.
Oh,
Everything in this
okay.
tutorial is like very detailed. Uh, and then there is also machine learning over here. So like proper models and everything, training, testing of models, and everything is over here in this course also. And then there's MySQL also,
Okay.
like a database.
Yeah, MySQL I have done.
Oh, and MongoDB.
Yeah. No, not MongoDB. But I think in CBSE 11th and 12th they teach very random stuff like in this the index thingy, like we were doing from the start. So they had taught most of the things like from the start. Then they skipped a few things and then they taught MySQL and databases like
Yeah,
that,
it's very random.
files and all.
They don't like
Yeah,
go in
exactly.
order. They like teach whatever they feel like.
Yeah, they have a very random course, like they teach anything.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll just revise the basics now and then maybe in 2, 3 days, like give me 2, 3 days so that I can revise that.